It was an emotional day for the families of troops who died in the line of duty. 26 years later, South Africa remains a significant contributor to peacekeeping missions, risking it all in unstable and some of the most dangerous regions for the greater good. Families are now left with memories of their loved ones.
So it's very tough, honestly, especially for me and our kid. But we have all the support we need from the defense. So there are social workers, chaplains, calling, psychologists. So we are sorted on that one.
The funerals are gone, and we're not going to forget them and leave the graves as one side. But they came and said, we just want to call in remembrance for the fallen heroes. So that is something very, very good for me. As a family member of my family.
Drawn from diverse backgrounds, the SANDF commended the troops who died with their boots on. The Department of Defense says it's in the second phase of withdrawing troops and equipment from the DRC.
As announced earlier this month, we are busy with the phased withdrawal of our forces from the Southern African Development Community Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which we call SAMI DRC. We are working around the clock with the SADC Secretariat to ensure that we get all our people and equipment back from the Eastern DRC.
The Defense Minister has also welcomed the Special Investigating Unit's investigation into serious procurement irregularities within the department during the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's not petty for the SIU. It was at the time when the country was going through serious difficulties. And for people to have identified opportunities to steal, it's very disappointing. And I just do think we have to pursue them for the sake of our country and bring order. Unless we have your SIUs and pursue people who take resources from government, we'll never get things right. So I support that investigation.
The department says budget constraints will not affect plans to improve its technology. Aphumelele Mhlalane, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Joining us for more on this is Senior Training Coordinator at ENACT Program at the Institute of Security Studies, Willem Els. Good evening, Willem. Thank you very much for joining us on the late edition. So we marked International Day of UN Peacekeepers. Your position on the day's significance, if at all?
Good evening to you. Yeah, it's a very important day for South Africa. You know, South Africa for many years have been involved with peacekeeping on the continent, the subcontinent, but also abroad in countries like Nepal. We contributed a lot, but also we suffered some losses that has also been commemorated today.
You touch on those losses now. South Africa has reiterated its commitment to continue its participation in UN peacekeeping operations. However, there have been general concerns on the SANDF's budget being stretched to cover costs of peacekeeping despite the UN's reimbursements to troop contributing countries, because we know the money is reimbursed, but nevertheless there are still those concerns that we're still overstretched. Where do you stand?
Yeah, you know, if you look at the benchmark with other countries on the spending on the military, it's about 2% of the GDP. South Africa currently spends less than 1% on our defense. So we are way under budgeted, way underspent, but also way under resourced and overstretched. If we look at the deployment, you mentioned the SAMI DRC. Before that it was the SAMIM in Mozambique, but we also have some of our troops that are deployed at our borders for border security. When we had problems with ESCOM, they deployed them to ESCOM, as well as with the Zamazamas. So, and all of that costs money. And it takes troops away from where they are. It takes them away from their preparedness for their registered training, regular training, etc., etc. So all of that actually overstretched our military.
So are we in a position to boldly state that we'll continue with this commitment to be part of this UN peacekeeping operations? Can we boldly state that?
Well, on the one hand, you know, South Africa's got an obligation to do so, but given the current budget and circumstances, I think it will be really difficult for them to effectively plan, but also to effectively deploy our troops there, because you said it will be reimbursed, but at the end of the day, you have to lay out that financial cost in order to deploy your troops, and that includes, your strategic airlift capability that we have done. There's nothing left. All the planes are grounded. We don't have air cover for our troops. You do not have, for instance, in Goma, we saw that there was no capability to evacuate our troops by air, but to casevac them by helicopter. It was just not there because we didn't have the helicopters or resources to do so. And that could have saved some of the lives of our troops.
Now, we also heard from the Minister there of Defence in that clip stating that our withdrawal from the DRC is going as planned. Your take on that?
Yeah, it's been a very difficult episode for the SANDF. The battle there in Goma, it was the single biggest loss of battle being lost by South Africa since the Second World War. It doesn't runs well with the country, also with the military. We have been humiliated in many ways, but our troops stood fast. They were very brave, and they were actually stranded there while the political discussions were on their way and the negotiations. Eventually, they were allowed to depart from there through Rwanda, then to DRC, where they are being removed from there. It's a gradual withdrawal, and it's not good for the morale of the troops that are there. They've been there for a very long time under a very difficult situation with minimum support and logistics, and it's also not playing out well for our troops here. So I think we will have to rethink our deployment before we go. We will have to be better prepared. The intelligence needs to be in place, the planning needs to be in place, and all the resources should be there in order to effectively support our troops.
Willem, thank you very much for your time this evening. That's Senior Training Coordinator for the ENACT program at the Institute of Security Studies, Willem Els.